welcome to Butterflies of Wisdom, everyone. You will hear this episode probably go out on Monday, and if my editor could get it turned around, yes, I said editor. We have an editor now on board, and my editor is phenomenal. He is the host of Teachers Tunnel podcast, but he's also my editor on the side. So enough about being randomly on about this. So I actually have a guest, AJ. So without further ado, I'm going to AJ take it away.
All right, thank you, Wynn. I really appreciate you taking the time out to speak with me. I'm looking forward to our conversation today. This is really exciting. This is my first interview. Like I said, I really want to thank you for having me on.
Well, you are so welcome. And you do a podcast, don't you?
Yes, I have a podcast. I'm a new podcaster. My podcast is called What We Gonna Do. Not what are we going to do, not what we finna do, what we gonna do. So that has been out, I want to say, about 3 weeks now. I just released my latest episode this past Tuesday.
So you just how many episodes have you released, AJ?
I have 2 full episodes and 1 mini-sode. 3 episodes
and 1 mini-sode. And so,
yes.
AJ, why did you get into podcasting then? Why were you listening to podcasts and thought, oh, that sounds fun? Or was it something more than that?
The funny thing is, I was really inspired. I want to say, got on the SoundCloud maybe about 2 years ago, and I started getting into podcasts. I really didn't know much about them. I mean, podcasts was still new. It was still building, but I really enjoyed them. And I've always been a good speaker. I've had other social outlets where I had YouTube videos and different forms of media. I had a website and all these different things. And I actually shut all of that down. I shut my SoundCloud down. I stopped kind of all of my social media for about a year. When I came back, I jumped right back into listening to podcasts, and it was just really encouraging that these different individuals were putting their voices out there, putting their stories out there, putting their messages out there. So in November of 2016, at the end of November 2016, which is kind of concurrent with the election and everything that was going on with the election, I decided that I have something to say. I have a voice. I want to get back out onto social media. Unfortunately, due to my busy schedule, I wasn't able to do that. I had already started the SoundCloud, and I set all these different things up. I got an email. I got a Twitter. I got an Instagram, but I was only there still listening. I started posting things, and I started building up a following, but I had not launched my podcast. I finally launched my podcast, like I said, about a couple of weeks ago. I finally, after speaking with Greg E. Hill, after speaking with Dose of Inspiration 246, and after getting encouragement from a lot of other podcasters, Dreams and Drive, We Come From Queens, the Podcast Brothers, TOS Podcast, I got a lot of inspiration, and I finally, Egos and Opinions, and I finally decided it's time for me to jump out the Blueprint Live. It's time for me to jump out there and let my voice be heard. I thought it was really interesting, and I have a different message to share. What I talk about is typically to inform, to educate, and to entertain. I really don't talk about a lot of the popular things that are going on today. I talk about the things that we need to talk about, not the things that we want to talk about. I do that a little bit here and there, but my podcast is really focused on talking about the things that everybody seems to be afraid to talk about.
You see, AJ, that's why I do my podcast. And by the way, I found you on Lena Campbell's feed, the host of Dreams and Drive, and she's one of my favorite podcasters. You guys know this. She's one of my favorite podcasters, Knowing Demand, because she has people open up on her podcast. I mean, I was lucky enough to interview her and get her take on why she does podcasting. And so I found you on Lena Campbell's feed. You commented on a podcast episode she did, and I just thought, this guy looks cool. AJ, I didn't even know your name. AJ looks cool. AJ looks, he's ready to share his message with my audience too.
Yes. Raina is awesome, and I you know what? I noticed you a while ago. I definitely see your activity. I've seen your Twitter feed. You show a lot of support. Raina, you know, we've had a lot of offline conversations, and she's really an awesome young woman. I wish her the best, and I believe she has a bright future ahead of her.
I do too. She's awesome at what she does. You guys, if you want another favorite podcast to go listen to, 1, AJ, 2, Dreams and Drive, 3, Butterflies of Wisdom, because we all come from diverse backgrounds, AJ included. And so, AJ, after starting your podcast, how do you feel after finally taking the lead?
You know, it was nervous because, you know, when you hear your voice back, and I don't necessarily like my voice when it's recorded, I always feel like it comes out differently than I hear it back. So it was definitely nervous. And then because I'm talking about myself and just some of the things I'm talking about, it's uncomfortable, but I'm happy. So far, I've gotten great feedback. Everyone seems to be receptive. I'm getting new followers. I'm getting new listeners, and it really feels good that, you know, my message, although it may not be about robbing China or what's going on, you know, just with the, you know, just in social media, that people are, you know, listening to it and they're taking the time to digest it.
Yeah, it may not be about pop culture, but it's there to inform. And the reason why I do my podcast is to inform other people not only about podcasting, but solo entrepreneurship and bridging the gap between the disabled and non-disabled so that the non-disabled can have a better interaction with the disabled. And I love podcasting. I'm sure you do too. But what is the biggest challenge for you as a new podcaster who's just jumping into this?
Well, first, I'll say this. Time is not on my side. And again, this is July, and I'm really just getting started at the end of June. So time has not been my friend so far. Again, this podcast should have started in November of 2016, November 31st of 2016. And one thing I want to say, because I visited your website and I did listen to some of your episodes, which I think is really awesome what you're doing, the message that you're putting out here. And I think I spoke about this, that, you know, you've spoken with individuals such as, you know, Kasharu Moffitt and Greg E. Hill and a lot of different individuals. And I really think that's great that you've been able to connect and put that message out there. And like you said, bridge that gap, between the, you know, disabled and non-disabled. But to go back to time, I'm married. I have a daughter. I work full time. So, and obviously I have a personal life. So it's been hard for me to find the time to really sit down and be still and record with all of those different things going on. But I got to a point where I said, enough excuses, just get it done and sit down to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. AJ, what helped me, and I don't know if this would help any new podcast out there, but I have a schedule, and I put every single interview I have or I'm giving on my schedule and email it out to certain people in my life, including my dad. And so my dad knows when I have a podcast interview, he knows that's bothering. And so I don't know if scheduling your podcast interview, putting it on an actual schedule would help.
Yes, no, that is a great idea, and you know what? I am currently working on that. I think it's, even just looking at your system, when we set this up and the different things that you have, the conferencing and the appointments and the Google Calendar, I think that's really great, and I want to work up to that point. When I think about like a guy like Greg and the minority trailblazer, changing the culture. He talks and takes us through his walk, saying that he started with this type of mic, he started recording in his house, and I really, I'm kind of walking in those footsteps where I didn't want to come off polished. I just wanted to get started. So that definitely is something that I want to do, is start scheduling and getting that pushed out.
And so what's the best piece of feedback you have gotten so far about your podcast?
The best piece of feedback I've gotten so far, I want to say, I have to remember now, I got some feedback today from Kiki, New Geeky podcast, and she really, just made me feel good, saying that it's relatable, and it's honest, and that, I'm really telling, like real information, real stories about what's going on, and it just, she said she wanted to share a sisterly tear, just talking about my background and where I come from, and that I've, been able to come out of that environment. So that probably is one of the most recent things, and it just feels really good that people are getting takeaways from what I'm saying.
And what is your favorite book? It doesn't have to be a business book. It doesn't have to be a podcasting book. It just has to be a book that you go back to time and time again.
What I would say is, I'm a lover of new information, new books, new things. So, I would say a book called, One Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. Really great book that talks about, being in a concentration camp and just this individual, his lifestyle before the concentration camp, what he endured in the concentration camp, and him actually getting out of the concentration camp. It's a really great book, and it just talks about the psychosis and the psychology of a lot of things that you go through, and what he found at the end of the day, that is that search for meaning for man and common, and seems to be all people. Another book, I want to throw this out there as well. Another book would be, and I just lost it. I had another book in mind that's a really great book, and for whatever reason, it has just slipped my mind.
That's okay. That's okay. I only asked for one, and you gave me Viktor Frankl's book. I'm presuming that you can find that on Amazon and Audible and all that good stuff. AJ, if you had to be educated by anyone, who would it be and why?
That's a really good question. to be educated, I would probably say I would want to sit down and have a conversation with Jay-Z. There are a lot of names. One of the individuals I look up to is, the Bill Gates or Warren Buffett, Mark Zuckerberg, but I would really love to be able to sit down and have a conversation with Jay-Z, just to get his wisdom, get his insight, of where he comes from.
So, Jay-Z, and why would that be?
Well, again, Jay-Z is a hip-hop mogul. Jay-Z is an individual that literally turned his life around. He came from a similar background, just of being rough, and to look where he is now, with his, marriage, with his family, and his business savvy. I mean, he's probably he's a genius, in my opinion, for what he was given and what he was actually able to turn that into.
So he came from a very interesting background. And if you don't mind me asking you, how has podcasting opened up your life? Because you keep mentioning that you came from a very rough childhood, and we're not going to get into your childhood necessarily if you want to, but how has podcasting opened up your life?
Well, again, podcasting has taken me from the background and put me back into the foreground. So again, my voice is out there, which means that I get criticized and looked at and questioned and commented on, and that's interesting because, again, I already assume nobody really wants to hear this stuff. Nobody wants to hear real information, talking about real life and real things that people go through and how we can do better. Because I'm not only talking about these different negative situations or what we deal with in our current society, but I'm also talking about solutions. So, putting my voice back out there, like I said, it's just a thing where everybody is, I'm now open. I'm opening myself back up, for that life and just what I'm saying and even how I'm saying it.
And so you're opening yourself up to the negative calls, the criticism. Let's be real here and say there are critics out there. I had a critic last night who didn't think I could handle it, but I turned around and showed her, look, I could handle it, taught me a lesson. And then I republished her edited interview today, but left the unedited interview up so that people could see that I have tough skin. And let's be honest there, people are not going to like every story we do.
Yeah, I agree. And that's, you have to learn to take those things in stride. And I think, you did the right thing. And like you said, just leaving it up and just handling that situation and not necessarily letting it put you into a bad space. I think that's awesome. I've, dealt with that. Online is a little bit different because online you have a lot of trolls. So when you put things up for social media to digest, you have a lot of people that are not necessarily real people. So I can deal with the real people giving me real feedback. Like I said, it hasn't happened yet, and I don't want to speak it into existence, but I assume that, as I go along, I'm going to hear a lot of different voices, but it's my job to speak out the nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. Beat down the nonsense and continue what you're doing and just continue what you're doing. When I had this issue go on this morning, I asked, well, what should I do about it? I asked a podcasting team, and they said, just do what one person said, just keep doing what you're doing. Yeah, and that person made me feel better. And then they said, just edit the podcast, or just find someone to help you. Turns out I did. But I learned my lesson each time. I know now what not to do as to compared to what to do. And it taught me a lesson. But I wasn't ready for the feedback to take me down.
Right. No, and again, like you said, it's good that you had a podcasting team to give you that, that information. Again, everybody does not have that type of community. I'm fortunate to have the type of community that I have, so I'll be trying to have my own little team so that I can be able to handle these different situations as well.
Yeah. And so what is your favorite technology tool that you use on a daily basis?
Say that again. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
What is your favorite technology tool that you use on a daily basis?
That I use on a daily basis.
Yep.
Let's see. Okay. Sorry about that. I'm actually pulling over. I know I said I was driving. Give me that question one more time.
What is your favorite technology tool that you use on a daily basis?
My favorite technology tool? Oh, okay. So, I'm pretty much on my, so I work in IT. And just as part of my work life. So I'm typically on my PC or I'm on my phone. I have a Samsung Galaxy, S8 Plus. So I'm typically, on my Android phone. That's where, I do a lot of my tweeting. I do a lot of my posts. I actually, do my editing and recording and, cover art and setting up the RSS feeds for the most part from my phone.
Now you got me curious. Who do you host with?
I host with Podbean. I went through looking around a lot of different. Yes.
Podbean allows you to do that mobilely.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, look, I did a lot of research. I didn't want to ask too many questions. I mean, I know a lot of podcasters. I know they wouldn't have a problem giving me information, but I think I saw, my guy Derek or Sonny Boy with the Blueprint Live, and he talked about this, that why ask me questions on information that you can go find out and gather for yourself. So I really took the time out to go and I really took the time out to learn. I really, want to make this my process. And if I do need to ask questions, I know that I have resources and individuals I can reach out to, but I'm really trying to get it for myself.
I love it. And you guys, even though I did host on Podbean, and I will, Podbean is a wonderful host. Listen, who I'm hosting this one on, is also a wonderful host, but with Listen, they don't do it mobilely. So if you guys have to do it mobilily, Podbean would be best yet, because some of you have to do it mobilely. I mean, if you have to do it mobilly, you can't sit down at a desk and upload his podcast.
Right, exactly. If I did that, I probably wouldn't have put the podcast out, to be honest. If I tried to get a mic And if I tried to, get all of these different things, I probably wouldn't have put it out. So what I did was I used pretty much what I had to get what I needed to done.
Yep. Well, with mobile technology now, we can basically make these phones or computers.
Yes, exactly. And that's, I don't, I have an Android, so Android gives you a lot of things that you don't have, I don't want to hate on iPhone too much, but Android gives you a lot of functions that you aren't able to do,
I know
on an iPhone.
I know that. I have a disabled son who, every time I see him, it's like, he has an Android, I have an iPhone. And he goes, iPhone's driving me nuts. I don't know how you do it. Because what I've been told is Android has a lot more customizable stuff that you can do with Android than iPhone.
Right. Yes. No, that is the truth. Everybody has their differences, but funny enough, I was an Apple rep in the past as well as I had an iPhone, and I went from I had an older generation. I think I had the 3GS, and my friend finally convinced me to try Android, and I've never went back.
Yeah. So, AJ, what is your favorite podcast? And then I'm going to ask where people can find you. And then I'm going to let you turn the mic on me and ask me a couple questions.
All right. Oh, my favorite podcast. It's so hard because I really consider like everybody like almost my favorites, because what my favorite I probably would say is We Come From Queens. Kadesha and Monique from Queens, New York. That's probably my favorite podcast, and they know this. I've said it to them. These two young women have such great perspectives. They let you in on their conversations. They're two friends, these are two women, but they don't talk about the same things in the same way that other women that their age talk about. They don't have the same topics. They don't entertain the same guests, but it's really great and it's really honest. It's literally, as if you're in their house or you're with them out and you get to just be a part of their conversation because again, they're friends, but you just get to be a part of that through the podcast. They just took their real life, they put it on a podcast, and they had that conversation. As far as where everybody can find me, I am on Twitter at official WWGD. Again, that's Twitter at official WWGD because what we gonna do was taken. And I am on Instagram at what we gonna do. Again, that's what we gonna do on Instagram, as well as you can email me at not at, but what we gonna do at gmail.com. What we gonna do at gmail.com. So those are the different places that I'm at. That's probably one of my favorite podcasts. And I know when you said I could ask you some questions. So when my uncle actually had cerebral palsy. My uncle passed some years ago now, but he was a very intelligent, loving, caring, kept a smile on his face. What I would like to know for you doing this podcast, what do you get out of doing this podcast and doing what you're doing and having the conversations that you're having?
I use it as part of my university studies. I don't know if you guys know this, but how do you do? This podcast is going to be part of my portfolio when I go back to school. And this podcast may be shifting just a little bit because of the degree I'm going into. And so, to answer AJ's question, what do I get out? I get knowledge every day that I thought I would never get. I get knowledge every day from people that I thought I would never get in my life. And I just thought, well, if I open up and say I have cerebral palsy and do this podcast alone and not do an interview show, I thought that people were going to tune me out. Well, turns out they like what I'm doing. Turns out they're like promoting me every which way and supporting me every which way. So for me, it taught me how to be a better person.
That's awesome. I really like what you said. That's awesome. I'm trying to think. Let's see. How do I follow that up? Let's just say within the next 6 months, what is your goal for your platform, for your podcast? I know that you ran some campaigns. I know that you did some things in June, just kind of doing my research on my end. What are some goals?
My goal is to publish my 10th, I think I'm on my 10th book, publish my 10th book, make it to the New York Times bestseller list, and after I make it to the New York Times bestseller list, that will open doors completely for my work because, once you hit that New York Times bestseller list, it just opened doors completely for my work. And so that's my goal in the next 6 months is to publish a book and make it to the New York Times bestseller list.
That's awesome. I really like that as well. I mean, you said 10 books. That's amazing. I finished one book that I didn't even publish, and I have some others as well. I want to get on that New York Times with you, so I wish you luck, and not even luck. I wish and can't wait to hear about that success and you getting your message out there with your books to everybody.
Oh, you will. And you should probably publish those books, AJ, that you have drafted away stuck somewhere because self-publishing is difficult but yet easy yet satisfying. The reason why I say self-publishing is difficult but yet easy yet satisfying is because not only did you now have another platform that you can refer people to, you have a sense of pride. Like I published a book. The hard part is the editing part and the editing stuff. And then formatting the book. And in part 2 of me getting to the New York Times bestseller list, we're actually going to talk about publishing the book and how you actually do it. And so I think you guys should listen to that one. Those of you who want to publish books, including AJ. And then we're also going to give you guys a huge update on my second podcast, which has been put on hold. It's going to get rebranded because doing the podcast, as AJ knows, takes a lot of time and effort. So I think after I get the professional training, the second podcast will come into play.
All right.
And I definitely appreciate AJ's time tonight. You guys won't hear this until Monday, but AJ's another powerful podcaster that you guys know have to go support and I'm sure he would love more downloads of his podcast, and I wish him the best of luck. And if he gives me an update, I will definitely give you guys an update. And this podcast has been sponsored by Grace by Grit. Grace by Grit is a clothing line out of California. They're actually giving you guys 20% off. So if you go type code EXO Butterflies on gracebygrit.com, they will give you 20% off. And I appreciate those guys. And I definitely appreciate AJ's time. I know he was driving, and I know he was trying to thank everybody and trying to give a decent interview, this being his first interview. But AJ, you did it, and I wish you the best of the luck.
Yes, thank you. Again, I really appreciate the time. And again, I wish you the best, and I will definitely be sure to pass my information along. I know I'll see you in the Twitterverse.
Yes, you will. And as I said to you guys, this episode is coming out on Monday, so you guys will hear it on Monday, and you guys have to stop and go listen to AJ's podcast. We'll have AJ's podcast in the show notes information. And I also have a huge announcement for you guys next Thursday, which I'm not completely giving away yet. So you guys have to tune into that podcast and listen to my huge announcement. And so I wish AJ the best of luck, and let's go make this world a better place. Thanks to you guys.